Welcome to Patrick's Scale Studio. My name's Patrick. I'll be your host. For build video 19, we are going to take USS Curtis Wilbur all the way up through step 40. I'm going to go back, revisit some of these pages back here where we were mounting items that we were not ready to mount and secure in place earlier. Starting with the bridge structure. Now has windows in it. The mast, this top structure here, and then all of these railings. In addition to all of these railings and bits, we're also going to be looking into the rigging and some of the adventures I have with doing so. But at the end of this video, we will be finished with page 36, step 40, and ready to move on to adding a lot of the final bits and pieces to this great ship. So I hope you'll stay tuned with me for the entire video. If you have any questions, please make sure that you provide those questions to me in the comments below on this video, and I will get back to you. Alright, so in order to get this transparent green polystyrene put into here, we have to cut to size. I've already done these. I'll show you kind of how what my process looks like though with the last remaining windows here. It's nice to have calipers and kind of come in here and get an idea on the length you're going to need, and kind of come back over here then and cut it to size. It's okay to go a little bigger because you can always cut more off. You can't add more back on. So I've got that. Go in here and see how it measures up. I like to use, for stuff like this, old airbrush needles. Looks like we're going to have to cut a bit off. Go ahead and do that. I cut a little bit at a time. Sometimes you get lucky right off the bat. Let's have a look. And then other times you have to continue making adjustments. So it looks pretty good, but sorry about that, bumping the camera. But I think I would like to get just a touch more taken off. Now that it's a little bit finer work, I will use a sanding stick. There we go, just do this. Let's see how it fits now. Alright, that looks much better. Now that that's in there, I'll go ahead and apply just a touch of the Tamiya Extra Thin. Just enough so that I can let that go off after several seconds and turn it around and check, and then adjust the fit as necessary. Looks like it's pretty good as is. one thing I want to be sure of when I'm doing this is to make sure that I am only carefully applying this around the edges and letting the cement wick into the join between the green and the main bridge piece. I don't want to go flooding it. And there we go again, hitting the camera. All right, that's looking good. All right, so the last placement of cement is right here. And I touch it above there, and gravity will give me the biggest assist with getting that cement to wick down in there. So we've got those on there, and it looks good. I'm not overly concerned about some of the cement that you kind of barely catch right there. At this scale and that size right there, it's not going to be really evident unless you're a judge at a modeling contest and you've got magnifying glasses and you're really zooming in. So for the next one, I'll go ahead and do something similar. Come on. All right, so right there we go. And again, I'm not really concerned if I cut this just a little bit bigger, because I can always shave some off. So let's have a look and see how that looks. I really need to zoom in with my optivisor in order to be able to see that. And it looks like when I was cutting these windows out, I was doing a lot of cutting and sanding from the backside, and there's a little bit of a step right here. So I definitely want to trim that down to size so it fits in that space perfectly, instead of being up on this right here. So very, very, very light pieces of styrene, so you tend to sometimes develop a mind of their own while you're trying to get them into place. That looks fantastic. Sometimes you just get lucky right off the bat after that second cut, after that first adjustment cut, and just happen to land right on the size you need. So I'm really, really happy with that. So I'll give this a few seconds for that cement to go off. All right, looks good. Go ahead and finish wicking the cement into this right here. Alright, hopefully you all can see that. Just a little bit more here. There we go. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to finish up these back windows here off camera, and we will revisit this piece when we're all finished up. See you in a second. Okay, so we have gotten all of the windows put into place on this bridge piece. And in my opinion, it looks pretty good like this. I prefer the transparent green over my previous plan, which was to put some kind of iridescent strip there. I thought I might even have some to show you, but no, I don't. Not any longer. I think I tossed it out in the bin. But I think that looks good. So I'm going to put this aside. The next step here is going to be doing a little planning on the rigging. There are antennas that go from the front of this bridge piece up to I believe the upper yard arm on the mast, and then back here there are I'm not sure what the proper nautical term is, but there's definitely flat ropes that come from this lower yard arm down to I think what they call the flag bags, and in front of those are railings. Now the I Love Kit instructions would have you put those two railings in there that hold the rigging after you've put all this stuff on there, and I can't think of a worse time to do it actually, because you've got all this stuff in the way. So here's the actual parts right here, right there, and you get an identical one on the other side there, and between the two sheets. So I think what we'll do is use this fine easy line. If you haven't worked with this stuff before, it's stretchy, so it allows you to rig something and just give it just a touch of a little bit of a stretch, and it should allow you to put that in place without putting too much pressure on these really thin parts. You can see it's super fine, and I can just take that, and it's stretching like that and not even really moving this spool until I put about 50 to 100% of stretch on it. There you go. So I think what we're going to do is end up taking enough of this and tying it to these, and then gluing these in place with I have maybe epoxy or some super glue, and then just kind of letting the lines hang free while we put everything else on there, because once we put the mast assembly on there, then we can take those lines that are already installed and we can put them up to these yard arms on the front of this bridge piece, and on those railings here in front of the flag bags. So we'll go ahead, and I'm going to put this on pause. I'll be right back in a second. So no, USS Curtis Wilbur is not growing hair. This is my pre-planning on the rigging. Flag halyards are going to be back here and attached to the mast in several spots. This lower yard arm, these two attachment points right there, and this right here. And so that's what these are. These are the rails that glue down right behind this bridge piece right here on the superstructure. And then these 6 lines, 3 on each side, on the front of this bridge are going to go up to this upper yard arm right there. I believe someone told me these are antenna, but these are flag halyards, from what I was able to gather. The rigging details on this, that information is not easy to come by on online for the most part, just from pictures and diagrams and whatnot. And frankly, I Love Kit just completely ignored the fact that they're even there. So the instructions would have you mount these rails right here in step 34. As you can see, it's photo etch B14 after everything is already in place around it. So that's not what I wanted to do. What I want to do is go ahead and get them up now before all of this starts getting mounted on there, so it's not such a hassle to get them on there. And then I'll just kind of keep the flag halyards to the side without attaching them up until I get some of this photo etch in place and some of these smaller detail bits. But yeah, I thought it was kind of odd they'd have you do that there and then not even mention at all any semblance of rigging instructions at all in here. You can even see at the very last step there's nothing in the way of rigging. So next step here, I'm going to bring over the main ship, the main piece. I'm going to go ahead and get those attached. After I get these attached, then I think we're going to attach the bridge piece finally, and then we can get the mast and the upper part of this bridge put into place as well. It'll give us a little bit more of a complete look for now, but there's still a lot of detail to go. So be back in just a second. Go ahead and apply some of the cement to just the inside. This right here is just mainly on this inner wall and not on the bottom of the actual part. And I do that so when I push it down, I don't have glue, or cement, sorry, oozing out onto the deck that's there. Okay, that stuff smells awful. Go ahead and set it in place. The nice part about plastic cement is it also acts as sort of a lubricant when tolerances are tight. Alright, so let's have another look. That looks pretty good. I think that green comes off perfectly. All in all, very happy with that. Okay, so the next step in the instructions here is going to be mounting this mast assembly, which the two gluing points are there, and then this one up here is kind of like the main for the actual main mast. Those 2 points there are for that the supporting beams. So here is the main character for this particular something I've struggled with is having a good spot at which to kind of grip this in order to be able to get it in place. It looks like it'll be okay and it'll go on easy enough. The only concerns here is going to be making sure that we don't glue down any of this easy line. All right. Here goes nothing. See, it's quite a bit of maneuvering here in order to get that to sit in there correctly. There. All right. Move this a little bit so I can see it better. So far, so good. Okay. Should be able to. I'm happy. The most delicate piece of this entire project is finally in place. Additionally, it's interesting with the base and the pedestals, the height that added. So right now it's at about 12 and a half, between 12 and a half and 13 inches tall. Luckily that's the tallest point, so that's good to go. I was saying earlier, these lines will end up, these are antenna lines, they will end up coming up to this upper yard. And these flag halyards will end up coming up to this lower yard right here. There's a point here, here, and here, and then 4 more on this side as well. So that was a little dicey, but I'm happy that's in place. Looks like no casualties, so very happy with how that went on there. The next step on this is going to be to put that piece in place right there. When I put this in, it was almost just practically a drop fit. No kind of pressure or anything at all in order to get it to settle in. I think that is due to previously thinning down the insides of these walls. Go ahead and use some tweezers. tweezers. Okay, and I'm very happy with that. It looks like that was as it was designed, made to fit. So there we have it. All of the major structural components are in place on this. At this point, there's some detailing that needs to go in around here, some railings, look like some ladders here and there, same thing on the other side, some more railings down here. After we get some of that and stuff in place, then we can begin to go ahead and get these rigging attached, these antennas and these halyards. So that'll be the next thing I'm going to be doing, part C22 and the photo wedge A12. And if you can see the arrow and what that's pointing to, pointed out here on the ship. See what I mean? Right there. And you can't attach these until this and the mast are in place. So that is going to be next steps for us. Okay, so I've got the cement in place. I'm going to go ahead and try to get this and what fit on this is not going to be great. It's just one of those parts that you can't put on until everything else is in place. So we get this really nice little seam right there. But it is what it is. And there's no sense being upset about it. So I'm going to go in here and next up is getting this railing attached. So just a little bit of dip in the medium CA, and just not a good way of putting this on. Okay, actually that went much more smoothly than anticipated. So that was that little platform and that little railing right there. See if we can get this to show up better. Alright, so for our next steps for this video, we're going to be attaching railings. We're not going to do the railings in the order that they've got laid out, because that would have us putting railings up, or have me putting railings up down here in spots where I like to rest my finger while I'm handling tweezers. So instead, we're going to go backwards. And that means we are starting on page 31 and 35, and we're working our way down. The railings all start right at the top of this bridge piece, and then we'll move backwards to putting railings up that go right here at the edge on both sides. And then it looks like we've got some instruments that also need to get put into their proper spots. So we step down from that level, then we'll move down to the next levels here, which is around here and the back side. and then we've got stuff around the front side. For this, for the most part, I am just going to touch base with you all as I complete pages from step to step. It just would be boring as anything to watch me glue up tiny little photo etch pieces and put them in place with shaky hands. So, as I complete each step, we'll touch base. Back in a sec. Alrighty, so we got step 35, page 31, all completed, and that was these upper railings that go on top of the bridge piece. I'll get the instructions out of your way and kind of tilt this over to show you. So what we're looking at is railings right there, here, a couple back here, super tricky to get to, and then the ones up front here. After all of this CA glue dries overnight, I'm going to go ahead and touch up some of the brass where you can see the shiny brass, but yeah, here we can see some of those railings we put in. Just very touch and go on getting those into place, but looks okay, and I'm happy with the results. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next step, which is going to be step 34, page 30. As I said earlier, I'm going backwards because I like working with these delicate railings from the top down. So I'm going to be putting in some of this railing, then some of these pieces, and then this little antenna, and we will continue going backwards. So be back in just a second with those next railings done. Okay, so went ahead and got step 34 on page 30 completed, and what that is it involves these railings right here. That railing goes all the way down around here, and just one big square of that little tiny little platform right there. And then there's these little parts that look like binoculars, signal light, and I'm not sure what this piece is. And it's the same for both sides, just kind of opposite each other. So the railing right there, I definitely recommend bending it into shape off the ship and then applying it. And to that end, I've been using, let me put this down here. I've been using these glue loopers. It's a version 4 glue looper. If you do a search online for it, you should see what I'm talking about. There's a company that makes these, and it's been fantastic. For those railings, just a couple of touches of medium CA glue, kind of gently sitting it in place, and then going behind with this glue looper version 4 and just barely touching it to where the railing, the bottom rail, joins the deck. It'll allow that thin CA to capillary action flow into that join, and it's been very effective. The other nice thing about that is after you've used it and you've got some glue on there, all you have to do is take your lighter, trusty lighter, and it burns right off. And then you can go ahead and continue using this. I looked on their website for instructions specifically to use that version 4 of it, and it says it's meant for very low viscosity CA glues. So you want to go with definitely something that is super thin or thin, not the medium. The medium won't flow out of there. But it was designed specifically in mind for very tiny parts, and actually ship railings is one of the tiny parts that is directly mentioned on their website. So definitely was handy to have for getting the CA glue for those railings, and I can recommend that product. At this point, rigging has been completed. Very happy with how it turned out. Kind of turn it to the side here. So right up front we have the 3 on each side, port and starboard, antenna lines coming up from the front of the bridge, going all the way up to the upper yardarm. And on the back side is the flag halyards. This did not initially go to plan. In fact, using the I Love Kit parts right there. Both of them popped off. Both of them popped off with all my carefully tied on halyard lines. The reason behind that is because the instructions don't have you add those until everything's already painted and a lot of things are in place. And you're just gluing those painted photo etch parts to a painted deck. So you're pretty much just gluing CA between paint and paint. As soon as I put any kind of pressure on that from the easy line, it just snapped them off. And I thought the easy line was going to be a very safe bet because I knew it was going to be a tenuous hold at best. That said, I had to put it down for the day, and that's kind of why this video is taking a little bit longer to come out to you right now, because once you're in a frustrated place, which happens to the best of us, then it's not good to continue. You're just frustrated and you're working on something and it's going to continue frustrating you more, at least in my experience. So I have to put things down, I have to think about it for a night, and then come back to it with a fresh idea the next day. And with that problem in mind, I went to a Facebook group for the 1/200 scale I Love Kit, Arleigh Burke class kits, and I got many suggestions. One using either the piano wire I used for back here on this piece here on the mast. I also had some very, I don't even know if you can, it's just about as thin as a human hair. This is 0.15 millimeter brass wire that I blackened. I was going to try to use this, but in the end, after I thought about it some more, I doubled down with the Easy Line because it is even thinner than that really super thin brass wire, and to me it gave a much better scale effect. Now, is it completely accurate? No, absolutely not. There are fittings and stuff that go up here toward the front right there that the 3 cables extend from, so I've put some CA glue down here and kind of bunched them together a little bit to kind of try to simulate that a little bit. Also, I believe I've seen pictures of the flag halyards in the back being a darker color, but also a natural rope color. Also, I've seen different pictures with various configurations on where these appear. As you can see back here, we've got 4 per side, and then 1 here, 1 there, and 1 toward the middle right there. But I've, again, seen resource pictures of USS Curtis Wilbur where it's missing some of these. I've seen other builds where not all of these are present. I've seen builds where a lot more is present. So I kind of compromised and did what I thought looked right according to the pictures. My Easy Line only came in black, and I felt comfortable using black instead of natural rope color, just again based off of pictures that I've seen. So I could be wrong. Feel free to point that out if I am. I'm still going to go forward with how I've got things right now. That was a chore. Frankly, I'm fairly happy with where it's at. So my next course of action here is going to be putting the railings here on this deck. Railings there, railings around here. Same thing on the other side. Once those are complete, we'll touch base again, because then we have railings down here to go into. So, be back in a second. After the rigging was done and I continued to work my way down with the railings, I went ahead and completed step 33 on page 29, and instead of checking back in with you, figured it'd just be a waste of time and continued on with step 32 and 28. So now the entire superstructure assembly is completed. Happy to say it looks pretty good. I'll go ahead and show you what we've got. Alright, right here on the port side. Let me get something to point with. On our port side, those railings included this right here that goes on to this ladder. It's a little tricky. A corner piece, which looks pretty sharp, and all of this, along with this down here. This was especially tricky there because it's not a complete bottom railing all the way across. There's just one single little stanchion right there, and then that right there has got the regular bottom railing. And then we move over to these railings here that I went ahead and put up. And they were for the most part, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Switch it over to our starboard side. And the starboard side here, started out with that railing right there, but pretty close to the same thing as over there. These railings here, again, this corner made up of several pieces. This railing down here, and then the one up front here. Odd that they did it this way, but I Love Kit made this one over here in 2 pieces and this one over here in 1 piece. And I actually found it easier to apply CA glue to this main center piece right there, put it in place, and then bend the railing into place afterwards on these two outer sections of it. It just was easy, rather than fiddling around with back and forth to make sure that the shape worked out. But at this point, we are finished with the superstructure completely, and we are also finished with this build video. So I hope you like what you've seen so far. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, please feel free to put those in the comments below this video. And until I see you next time in Build Video 20, stay safe and happy modeling.